What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Alpha Evolution, and I am your host, Justin Adams. And today we're going to talk about a women's interest. Shout out to Mr.Locario for this one. Now, there's three levels to a woman's interest. She could have, well, four basically: zero interest, or basically you just don't exist. But we're not going to consider that. Then there's low interest, and medium interest, and high interest. So let's look into low interest first. Now, this is going to be the bulk of the women that you encounter, unfortunately. And that's just the way things roll. That's just the way things are in the reality of dating. Okay. And I'd say it's like 50%. And then say 40% is going to be medium, and then 10% is going to be high. Obviously, the best is that 10%, is finding that 10% of women who have high interest, because it's going to require the least amount of effort. It's going to be the least amount of effort while you're interacting with her, but finding those people, that's where the greater effort is going to be. So you're going to have more effort on the front end and less effort on the back end. And then the medium interest people, it's kind of balanced, where you're going to have to put in some effort finding them, and you're going to have to, on the front end, and you're going to have to put in some effort on the back end when you're interacting with them. And then the low interest, the low interest is going to be the majority of your interactions, where essentially the woman is going to be open for an experience, but she's going to be more or less like a tire kicker, right? And so it's like just like those people who are out buying a car. They want to get a new car, but they're not sure. They don't know what they want, and they're going to the dealership, or they're going to people who are selling their vehicles online or whatever. And they go to the person's place, or they go to the dealership, and they're just kind of, shopping with their nose. They're just like, I don't know, and checking out features and so on and so forth, and basically wasting the time of those salespeople. And if you've ever done anything remotely around the world of sales, you'll understand how to sort of weed out the tire kickers. And after you spend enough time with them, you can kind of get a sense for who they are. You can get a sense for their type of character, and you can kind of do away with them right at the jump. Like, that they're not buying, and that they're just going to waste your time. However, I would say that it's not a complete waste of time, and this is why. It's not a complete waste of time, because say you're texting a woman, or this is a woman that you've met on the street or an event or whatever, like just basically in real life. You can practice. See, that's the thing with all of these levels, except the high level, the low and the medium. These are places for you to practice. And the good part about sensing that a woman is at low interest, you can basically throw all caution to the wind and try out anything you want, because it's done. You know that she's not interested. So you can practice saying anything that you want. You can try new mindsets. You can put yourself out there in creative ways that you've never tried before, because you know that she's not all that interested. So there's no real investment on your part, right? Your hope levels are down, so to speak. You're not like looking forward to meeting her, because you already know she's not going to meet up with you. So if you're texting with her, you can really just twist the throttle and do whatever you want. All right. Now, and you don't have to be all that calibrated about it, because it's just done, right? When it comes to a medium level interest, and this is going to be the second largest grouping, like I had mentioned. I mean, these aren't real percentages. This is just off the top of my head. But I mean, the low interest could be 60%, the medium interest could be 30%, right? And the high interest could be 10. But anyways, in the second grouping of the medium interest, That's also where you can practice, where you should be practicing. And this is where you're going to get the most sort of volleyball matches with this person, where you hit the ball and then they hit the ball back, and you hit the ball and they hit the ball back. And this is where you can you can get into playful banter. This is where you can get into sexual banter. This is where you can practice your creativity. This is where you can practice your dominance. This is where you can practice your sensuality, your ability to engage her emotions and her imagination, and so on and so forth. This is actually, to me, the most enjoyable type of interactions where there's a moderate level of interest. I've had plenty of high level interests, and they're great and all, where they've got high interest, you've got high interest, and it's a go. There's really no there's really no challenge in it. And maybe that's just me. Like I enjoy having to hunt for my food, right? I kind of like the idea of uh, of wrestling the antelope to the ground instead of just the antelope falling to the ground for me and saying, "Here, bite my neck." Granted, like I said, like yeah, that's cool and all, but like I'm a creative person, right? I enjoy the creative process of seduction. I enjoy sharpening my skills in this area, and I don't put a whole lot of emotional stock into it. So if I screw up, it's not a big deal, right? Because you could have someone who has moderate level of interest, and you're saying stuff, and it's making its way up towards high level of interest because your game is good. Your text game, your voice game, it's all good. So, but you could say one little thing, and it switches. So the medium level communication is delicate, and you think you could be like making it more and more dense and stronger and kind of ramping up to high level, and you could say one little thing and it throws it off. Now it could throw it off and fall all the way back down, or it could just stumble a little bit and you can catch it and redirect things. And the thing is that the more you do this, the more you get into these interactions, the better you get. So the fumbles will happen less frequently, and when they do, right, because no one's perfect, when they do happen, you gain control again of the ball faster. So you regain control of the fumbling ball a lot faster. And so this is kind of where my guys focus, right? Because obviously, you're not going to deal with a low interest woman very much or for very long. And high level of interest people are not super common. It's just the way nature is. So a lot of their interactions are with the medium level interest. And that's where I'm hoping that your situations are. Actually, I hope that you have a lot of high interest, but that's just not realistic. What I think that you're going to have is a lot of medium level interests, and that's where game comes into play. That's where understanding communication. That's where you're going to understand how women think, how women feel, and the only way to figure it out is to just get in there. Is to get in there and have a lot of these experiences, get a lot of conversations going, and then you'll start understanding the flow. You'll start understanding the pattern, and with coaching, if you decide to go that route, you will be able to have guidance on how best to navigate these situations. And a number of my guys, when they're in this zone, this medium interest zone, through my help, they're able to see the invisible door that's there. And I've talked about this before in other videos, but there's this other reality. There's this other door that is this has you have access to that you never really knew was there before. And it's really strange. And once you have access to it, you then have a lot of creative freedom. And you kind of like get into, I guess, what you would call similar to like a flow state in sports. And this is where game really thrives. That's where game really, really thrives, because it'll put to test your mindset. It'll put to test how you feel about yourself. It'll put to test your beliefs about women, your doubts about women, your feelings. Like all the important shit will be tested in these medium level interest women. And so this is where I want you to get all of your practice in. This is where I want you to find yourself when you're talking to a woman, either like on your phone or through an app. And because this is where you will get sharpened. This is where you will learn the most, provided that you are able to get out of your emotions. That's the number one biggest thing that guys screw up on. Where their feelings will get in the way of learning. And that is the biggest problem of guys. You really have to learn to let go of your attachments. Let go of your attachments to this woman who's interested in you. That just means that you don't have enough women that are interested in you. But you've got this one, okay? Like, so let's say you're trying, and boom, you get a hit. Like she's on the hook a little bit, and you're pulling and you're trying to reel her in. You have to do that more often, right? Because the more you do that, you'll have less excitement about it. And then you'll be able to focus more on the structure and quality of the interaction. Versus if it's just that once in a blue moon connection, you're going to be very excited. Okay? So it's kind of like this. There was this one time where these Buddhist monks, and they were doing this, these scientists were using this MRI or this brain scanner thing, and they were measuring the brain waves of regular people and these Buddhist monks, right? And so they put the monks on the tables. They were hooked up to the things and measuring their brain waves, and same with the regular people. And they were all wearing headphones, all right? And in the headphones, there was a bell going off, okay? Now, this is kind of opposite of what I'm talking about, but the regular person, okay, the regular person was able to hear the bell once, and then there would be a high spike in their brainwaves. Then every bell after that, the brainwaves would go lower and lower and lower and lower, because their brain was being conditioned to the stimuli. The brain was like, oh, there's another bell. All right. And eventually the brain allowed the sound of the bell to fade into the background because they were expecting it. Now, the monks, on the other hand, because they are so present in the moment, every single bell that went off, their brain perceived it as the very first bell, even though it was the sixth or seventh bell. So by the seventh bell, it would bing, and their brain would go, woo, what's that? That's a bell. They're amazing. What I'm suggesting is that you actually learn to be more like the regular person in the scenario, where you have these interactions over and over and over again, such to the point where you aren't having an emotional reaction, that your brain is saying, okay, this is just another interaction. And then your emotions don't get pulled up into it and then start attaching to the situation and then saturate the experience with your emotions. You got to kind of let that sort of subside, and that only comes through repetition, so that you don't perceive it as a big deal. It's not a problem. This is regular everyday stuff. All right. And then once you're there, that's when you can start experimenting, playing, and having fun, right? Don't forget that, I mean, people put so much weight on this stuff and relationships and all that jazz. Sex, attraction, seduction. I mean, people like obsess over these things, and they lose the sense of having fun. Right? They take it so seriously. It's like those kids who who they love playing piano, and then they go off to school for it, and the school kind of jams the training into their gut, and then they can't the fun aspect gets lost. And sometimes they'll get burnt out and then drop it and be like, oh, that's not for me. Or they'll stop doing the training at the school and say, you know what, that the structure and the rigidity and the seriousness kind of squashed all of my enjoyment for this instrument. And they just go back to playing for fun. And that's happened a number of times for me in my life in various endeavors that I've partaken in. So just remind yourself that it's just women. It's not a big deal, and to do it a lot and to enjoy yourself. Because if you're not enjoying yourself, if you're not having fun, and you're putting weight on every single word that you type or every single word that you say, oh my gosh, hoping that it's the right thing, you're gonna get lost. And that tension and that anxiety, that seriousness, that's gonna be conveyed through your communication on a subtle level. And it's gonna ruin it. It really is. You have to lighten up. You really do. And then once you lighten up, you stop taking it so seriously, that's when you can open up and start using your creativity, having fun, enjoying yourself, and just treating it as another aspect in life that you can express yourself. All right? Now, I'll just touch really quick on the high interest ones. The high interest ones, that's the easy stuff. Okay. And a lot of guys, if you're struggling out here, that's kind of what you're dreaming about. But honestly, if you have that all the time, your skills will become dull. Maybe that's why nature has it that way, that those are not the most common things. Now, they're great fun. Okay, it's an awesome feeling when a woman has the same amount of interest in you that you have in her. And it's very easy. It's very easygoing, and you can sense her enthusiasm. She's down for meeting up, and you just say, hey, this is great. I'm loving this connection. When are you free? And then you just plan a date. You plan a time to meet up or whatever, and go grab a cocktail. She's coming over. You got wine, whatever, and it's just in. And it's great. Okay. So once in a while, those things will happen. And the more you do that, the more you become sensitive to the cues of women, because a lot of women, they're not going to be just forward like that. Be like, oh, I'm really attracted to you. Let's get together. They're still women, right? So they're still going to be reserved. They're still going to communicate in a sideways fashion rather than a forward fashion, the way men are supposed to communicate. So I hope you're communicating that way. So they're still women, okay? They're not going to be overt about it. So when you do have these experiences of this top 10%, you still should be paying attention. You still should be paying attention to the cues and the attitude, the vibe, the style of what a person who has high interest, what their behavior looks like. And the thing is that because they're kind of rare, you guys don't know what that is like. You don't know what cues to look for. So when it does happen, don't ignore it. Don't just be like, oh, sweet, like I got lucky, and just kind of like throw it in this experience in a drawer and forget about it. Really reflect back and say, okay, how is she coming at me? How is I coming at her? How did the communication go along? And kind of analyze it a little bit. Don't go overboard, but just analyze it a little bit and just ask yourself, how did this come about? What were the factors involved? How was I feeling at the time? How do I think she was feeling at the time? All right. And you don't know. Maybe she's not like that. Maybe she was having a bad day and wanted a fun night out, and you just happened to fit the bill for that period in time. And if it was a week prior or a week after, it wouldn't have worked. All right. But still, so there's always going to be a portion of it that you can't analyze on her end. You can't fully understand her motivation. But what you can do is take a look at the interaction and see how you were behaving and try to reflect back on how you were feeling at the time. Because how you feel about the situation and how you feel about yourself, those get conveyed on a subconscious level through your communication. So when these things do happen, don't ignore them. Don't just think of it as a win. Also learn from that. So learn from your wins, learn from your losses. All right. So no matter what, it's a learning experience. And that's how you're going to be able to move forward. All right, I hope that was helpful for you guys. If you have any questions, just hit me up on IG through my bio. You can schedule a free 45-minute consultation, and my products are available through there as well. All the links are that are necessary are in there, and I hope to hear from you. All right, until next time, peace.